Going live. Got it.
Oh, it gives me the option to leave the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Nope, you're not allowed to. Then I have to, get it automatically. And then this kind of gives people a chance to join too
Sure.
as we're doing this. So I'm copying it. We are live. They can see us now, but that's okay. I know I keep confusing my listeners because I keep changing the time. 7 used to be my original time for years and years, probably 4.5 years, something like that.
Oh, wow.
And then I had to do a one at like 3 p.m. and all the ladies were like, this is so much better, because 7 p.m. Central is sometimes they're getting dinner and
Bedtime for the
yeah.
kiddos.
Yes. So I changed it to 3 p.m., but I can change it back and forth. That's okay. Okay. So let me get it on here. Oh, we see we already have people. Got Celine and Ashley. Hello, ladies. All right. And I know Celine is a single lady that has asked me to do this topic before. So Celine, this is partly for you. Okay. So as you ladies can see, I have a guest on today. And Hope is a very sweet Christian lady that I have gotten to know a little bit better over the last few years since we've gone. I actually met you. Did I meet you for the first time in person at the bus conference? Was that the first time?
Yes, I think it was. Yes, this past February.
Yeah, this last February. But I feel like I've known her because of social media, and my family had been, met her. My daughter spent a week at camp with her.
Yes.
And everything. So I am just impressed by kids. I mean, it's my desire as an IFB pastor's wife to raise kids who want to be IFB as they grow up, after they grow up. And I'm always impressed with young people who follow in their family's footsteps and they, choose the IFB lifestyle for themselves. So she is a pastor's daughter, but go ahead and introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about you and your background growing up, different things like that.
Okay. So, I'm actually the administrative assistant for my church. That's a fancy name for it. I'm a secretary, for my dad at the church. And, as far as what things I do a little bit of everything. I just try to be flexible. I'm currently working half days at one of our daycare centers, because they needed the extra help. So I'm helping out with that. What did I list here? I'm our college coordinator. If we had a title, probably be Dean of Women or something like that. A bus worker, soul winning and bus worker trainer, daycare worker, youth, teen, young adult, single women's counselor. And then I put daughter, auntie, friend, and most importantly, determined to be a good Christian.
Yes. Yes, that is the hope of me as well. And I know most of the ladies that watch this channel, that is what we are aiming for. So your father is Pastor Bill Reeves of North Platte Baptist Church, correct?
Yes. Yep. In North Platte, Nebraska.
Yes, North Platte, Nebraska. It's a little rural town, kind of like Sterling Rock Falls. So I identified with it I loved it when I visited. I know people joke about North Platte out in the middle of nowhere, but it's like my home. So I liked it.
Awesome.
And then
it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's a cute little place to live. I enjoy it, but
yes. And her sister-in-law, it's funny how the IFB world works because her sister-in-law, Courtney, I've known for a long time. I've known her family for a really, really long time. They go to the church that my son is at the college right now. So so it's just
okay.
IFB is very tied in.
It's kind of small.
Yes. It's a small world in the IFB world. So she ended up marrying Hope's brother. So she moved from a larger town, Elgin area, to North Platte, Nebraska. So I know that's kind of been an adjustment for her. But yeah, her dad, as she was talking about the daycares, her dad has, you guys have 3 daycares out of the church?
2
daycares.
Yeah, okay. Just 2. We've talked about starting a 3rd, but we just don't have the employees for that.
Yes. But the thing I like about it is, if someone is put in that position where they have to put their child in daycare, they're in a very Christian environment. I think that's great for the kids that are there. We got to visit them, and I love kids. And I was able to meet a lot of the kids there. They just like stole my heart. And then very big bus ministry there. Her dad's very passionate about the bus ministry, and Nevaeh, correct?
Yes.
Stole my heart when I was there. She was so adorable, and she reminded me of Kelly, my little Kelly. And I just made me miss Kelly, but she's just so cute. And
she loves getting pictures with me to send to you.
Aw,
like, so can we take a picture to send it to that lady?
Aw, so she still remembers me. That's so cute. I hope to go back next year, and I hope she's still going.
Oh yes.
So
I think she'd love that.
Yes, I would love that as well. We're hoping to take the whole family out to their bus conference. They put on a very good bus conference as well. Would it be March?
February. It's usually the 20th through the 23rd. It falls somewhere around there. I'd have to look.
Okay.
It's Monday, Tuesday night.
All that to say, you're a very, very busy woman. And I specifically wanted to have you on because I've been asked about this subject quite often from my single listeners. Just how do I find contentment? What do I do? What do I do with my life when, everyone around me is getting married, everyone's starting families, and I'm just really struggling because I feel like I'm in a different place than I thought I would be. I'm single, all my friends are getting married. And I kind of wanted to go over just finding contentment while single. And I think this can apply. I want to start out by saying, I really think that this area of contentment applies to all areas of life, because I firmly believe that, and I've told all my kids this, if you can't find contentment in whatever season of life you are in, you won't find contentment in different seasons. So if you're not content when you're single, if I only get a man, then I'll be happy. You finally get that man, and then maybe you can't have kids for a while. And if I only have a kid, if I only have a child, then I'll be happy. And then you start having child after child after child. Well, if I can't wait until these kids grow up, and then I'll be happy because they're stressing me out, and then finally all the kids are grown up. And it's always one thing. If you're not happy in one season of your life, it's not going to carry over.
And then it's the end of your life, and you look back and you go, did I enjoy any of it?
Right. Exactly.
It's a very sad way to you just lose years, and you lose the enjoyment of the things that you are doing because you're so focused on the things that you don't have. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So
no, yes, exactly. Exactly. So I wanted to let's go back to kind of your testimony when it came into finding contentment,
Sure.
in your single life. And can I ask how old you are, just for my listeners?
Yes. So I am 32. I'm 32 years old. And I turned 32 in February.
Okay.
So I've always been in an independent fundamental Baptist church. And for probably 99.9% of my life, my dad has been my pastor.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of a unique situation. Not everybody's going to have that. But I will say, if you're not, or if you're in a good church, then I would really first and foremost want to point you to your pastor and to your pastor's wife. If you are struggling with these things, because the number one reason people walk away is because they didn't talk to anybody, and they probably thought they don't understand because obviously they're married and they have a family, and that's just not necessarily true. So I want to put that out there first, just encourage any single women out there, no matter what your age is. It's so important to have good leadership in your life and to get close to those leaders, because sometimes even without knowing it, they're giving you these little nuggets of truth. But if you're not, drawing close to that leadership that God has given you, you're going to miss out on that. So I was saved in December 16th of 1994. I was almost 4. And I just kind of wanted to put that out there. It was real simple for me. I think I had seen a picture book with like the story of the crucifixion of Jesus. And I kept asking Mom questions, and she's like, I think she's too young for this, but I kept asking the questions, so she kept answering.
4, so I was 4.
You
We're
get
just
that.
smart. And you're the oldest, correct?
Yes, I am.
It's that oldest thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
My mom was, I think my mom was 4 too. Yeah, 3 or 4. So
Mhm.
just my heart was really tender when I saw that how can somebody not love Jesus?
Yeah.
To me, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm very blessed with just having parents who are very soul conscious, and they allowed
Mhm.
me to ask those questions, and they didn't push me off to the side. And I was so excited. It's something that I still remember to this day.
Mhm.
So as far as my testimony towards being single, um, so I would have to say I didn't really struggle with necessarily being single in my early 20s.
Okay.
But when I hit about age 25, I
Mhm.
feel like that was the age when it really set in. It wasn't just single, oh, I'm single and this is hard. It was oh, I could possibly be single forever.
Yeah.
And just the emotional like devastation I would say that you can feel when your entire plan
Mm.
was based on getting married and having a family. It's kind of just it's just you feel like you're getting slapped in the face with that realization. So I didn't date much in college, date court. I don't know what you guys call it. So
I call it dating.
yeah, that's what we call it. But so I didn't date in high school at all. It was just a
Mhm.
general
Right.
rule, but there was also nobody really to date. So
Yeah.
that wasn't necessarily a problem. And I didn't date too much in college either because my first year of school, Dad and I had talked, and he'd asked that I wouldn't date my first year of school,
Mhm.
and just focus on. It was a big life change for me, first time moving away from home, and he just wanted me to kind of focus on that. And it was a very wise decision, um, because the first year of school was just very hard for me. It
Culture
was
shock.
Yes, it was a big culture shock. So I was actually really grateful that I didn't have to deal with dating on top of all of that. And then so about age 22, so right around graduating from college.
Right.
Now I had gone out with a guy or two here and there. But nothing ever, I would say one was like maybe a little bit more serious, um, and harder for me, and like it was in the long run. But he wasn't the right guy and I knew better. So just,
Mhm.
a mistake. Um, but it was
What
after that
college did you attend?
I went my first 3 years it was Texas Baptist College. Now it was Brother Gray's,
Okay. Yeah.
Brother Bob Gray Sr., now Brother Bob Gray Jr.
Junior.
as the
Okay.
church. And
Mhm.
the church name has changed too. I can't for the life of me.
Longview?
It was,
It
that's
was
what
Longview. It's not
it,
that anymore.
it's
Okay.
not anymore. It
Oh,
was
that's
Longview
right.
Baptist Temple, and now
Okay.
it's
He did change it a few
Emmanuel.
years
I
ago.
think it's
Okay.
Emmanuel
Mm-hmm.
Baptist Church now. So much has changed, and they changed the name of their college and everything.
Yeah.
But I went for 3 years. At the end of my 3 years there, just there's a lot in that time period of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But Dad and I talked, and I just made the decision to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the year that Dad actually decided to start his college,
Okay, that's what I
or
was wondering. Yeah,
ours,
I
the
was wondering the
churches.
timeline of
Yeah.
that. Mm-hmm.
So I graduated from our school. I just finished my last year, and I graduated from our school in 2013.
Okay.
So, so it was kind of after graduation. And of course, I'm living in this small town, and I was overgoing. I didn't want to go anywhere because Dad was like, you could go get your master's somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, I'm too old for that. I don't want to. This is around age 25. We're having this discussion.
Okay.
Didn't really want to do that. I love the ministries at my church that I'm a part of. Um, Obviously, my family is all here, and
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't feel like that was something that God wanted me to do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the decision just to stay home and work,
Mm-hmm.
in the ministries. And then I also worked, through college, I worked a part-time job. And then after college, it went to more full-time, but I was also working at the church. So anyways, and I was just working, but it was around this time period that I realized I just couldn't see myself meeting somebody and then 6 to 12 months later getting married,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, I have to I tell my mom this all the time. If a man wants me to marry him, I have to know him because you're asking for my entire life.
Yeah.
And after you get married, then you follow him. And that's,
Yep.
I believe in that 100%,
Yep.
but I have to be 120% sure. So because that's my natural instinct, I just kind of sat back and realized that it's probably not something that's going to happen anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say I was fine with that, and I wasn't. I wasn't fine with it. And so it was just a struggle, and probably for a good 2 or 3 years, just back and forth of trying to understand where my place was in life, because I had for so long built this thing in my head of what my family was supposed to look like. And then add to that, my sister got married. And I was ecstatic for her, and super happy for her. I love my brother-in-law. And then, Will ended up getting married. And so it was just like, it's fine. I remember thinking, it's fine, but it wasn't. And just many discussions with my parents and trying to make sense of it. And I would just say on the practical side, looking back, the best thing I would say to anybody who's in their early 20s, who's possibly finding themselves thinking the same thing is obviously don't write it. I still would love to get married. And I have no, God sent a man to me, tomorrow, and that's the direction. I'd be fine with that. That would be fine. That's not a desire that's gone away.
Right.
But I just learned how to manage, my life and fulfill, and I figured out what real fulfillment looks like for me. And it's not for everybody, but for me. And so I just had to learn and put in place the practical things that helped me. One of those things was just setting goals. And so I had to sit back and go, well, if I never get married, and I'm not saying I never will, but if I never get married, what does the future look like? Am I going to live in my parents' house until I'm 40?
Right.
Is that what I want?
Right.
Obviously, the answer was no.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. And so just asking yourself those hard questions, you have to get out of the funk of just being so disappointed that the things that you thought were going to happen or come your way didn't, and start building a plan on building your life and becoming not necessarily totally independent, but able to take care of yourself. Because that was one of the things my parents and I talked about. It's like, what happens if, not God forbid, but they pass on? Right. What I have to be able to build for myself. And my parents were amazing. Just with us kids in general, not even considering, being single or whatever, but Dad worked on us with finances and credit and all these different things. And I would say I was probably the latest one to get started because I was the oldest, and your parents, I tell teens this all the time, your parents have never raised an 18-year-old before. So would you just give them a break? They're figuring it out.
Yes. That's why I tell my oldest all the time. I'm figuring it out with you. Okay.
It's never going to be fair. I'm sorry. The youngest is always going to get do things earlier.
Yes.
But that's not because your parents hated you. It's they're figuring it out. Give them a break. So I remember when my dad started working with my brother on some more in-depth financial things, because he was trying to teach him that he has to be the leader of his house and all this stuff.
Right.
I was around the same age of 25, 26, 27. My dad's like, he just looked at me and he goes, I think you could buy a house. And I was like, you're crazy. No, I can't. I was like, I can't do that. No. And he goes, I think you could, but think about it. And I did. I thought about it for like a year. And I was like, Dad thinks I can do this. I suppose I can. And it took 2.5, 3 years of working 2 jobs, 2 full-time jobs, saving money. But it was so worth it. And so I did purchase my house about 2 years ago. Yeah. Right. I moved to my house after my 30th birthday. I was hoping to be out of the house. Like, I bought my own house by the time before I was 30, but it doesn't really matter. It's just one
No,
of those
that's a
little
good
things.
goal.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest practical things I could tell you is just set goals and then review your life. And as you complete those goals, you set new ones. And so that's kind of where I am at in the process. And it just, contentment isn't something that you just get. Like you go to the store, you pick it off the shelf and you get it and it's yours forever to take home. It's something that you get and have to maintain.
Yes.
It's like anything else in life. If you don't take care of it, you're going to lose it. It's going to get broken. And so that's why I'm really big on getting counsel from your leadership, because there's a verse that popped into my mind on Saturday. And it's godliness. I think it's in 2 Timothy or 1 Timothy. Godliness with contentment is great gain. And contentment is something, because it needs you need to actively work on it. If you are not godly and you're not actively working on being a good Christian and getting close to the Lord, then you're going to struggle with that contentment, because you're not. I've seen so many girls walk away because they're not married. And that's the bottom line. That's they're just so lonely and they're in turmoil. So they walk away from the Lord because there aren't enough guys out there who love the Lord, or you're just not finding the one that God wants for you. And they just don't ever see it happening. So they walk away. But before that ever happened, they never got any help or any counsel. They lived this life on the outside that said, oh, I'm content. I'm fine. I'm perfectly happy. Only to find out they were none of those things. And they never came to anybody and said, I need help. And one of the things about being godly is being able to look at yourself and say, I need help, and go get the help. So you have to maintain a good relationship with the Lord, obviously first and foremost, and then with your leadership, and just go to them. My mom's one of the big people I call all the time. Just 9 times out of 10, I started off with, I'm just being emotional and I just need you to listen for a second. And she will, but at the end, she'll help refocus, where I'm thinking, what I'm thinking. And there was one thing I wrote down. I did want to share a conversation that we had. Let's see. I had to find it.
No, and I want to say too, like I appreciate I appreciate parents who are very invested in their children as far as teaching them finances, teaching them how to manage finances. And the girl that my son is actually dating right now, she is 23. So she's not quite, didn't remain single as long as you, but in those single years, she became a phlebotomist, and she actually bought a house with her brother as well.
Nice.
So, and her dad pushed her towards that, set her up financially and helped her make wise financial decisions. And it's great too, even if there comes a day when a man comes along your way, you are set financially. So
exactly,
because of wise decisions, he's not going to be marrying a girl with all this debt and stuff.
Right. And honestly, before that, I just thought, if I do this, because obviously you get a home loan, so you do have debt. But one of the things Dad had to explain to me is, yes, you have debt, but you also have equity that you're putting into that house.
Yeah.
And, but it was one of those things that was really hard, because it was like, what if I decide for me, this is what I'm doing? I'm essentially settling down. And then a guy comes, I'm going to be so mad. I'm going to be so mad at Jesus. I'm going to be so mad at him. And I had to let go of that. So I found what I wanted to say. Actually was all the way underneath on your outline. You said expectations not met, dreams not coming true. I put, when your expectations are unmet and your dreams have not come true, are you destined to live a life of unhappiness? Right. No, but that's how I felt. I called my mom one day in tears and asked her, why does it seem like each step in my life is so hard? Like I have to fight to have a normal things everyone else has. She asked me 2 things. First, she asked why I thought my experiences were abnormal. Just because I didn't know anyone else going through this did not mean there weren't others out there. God wasn't trying to make my life difficult, but part of living in a sinful world is suffering from my sinful and poor decisions, yes, but also those of others. So why are we surprised? It's really not that abnormal.
Yes. No, it's not.
And then secondly, she asked me if I thought the Lord loved me. And I was like, of course, I know he loves me. He loves me greatly. And I love him. She then asked why I would ever think the Lord was purposely trying to make things hard for me. That made me stop and think. Maybe the one making things hard was me. I was trying to shove the Lord's will and plan for my life in the box I had designed and built. If I surrendered to the Lord, he would guide me and life would feel much less like a fight. And that is so true. I just was at this place where I was on the border of being bitter because I know so many women out there who are like, I wish I didn't have kids and I was a career woman, or they're complaining, and I just look at them and go, that's all I ever wanted.
Yeah.
How in the world are you complaining about this?
Yeah.
And now obviously I don't have the kids and I don't have the weight, the responsibilities. I get that. But as a single person looking in at somebody else's life of everything you ever dreamed, and I was the one who was like, I'm so fine with being submissive. Like,
Yes.
does the man want to pay the bills? Hallelujah. That is fine with me. We don't have to be rich. I am totally fine with not being rich, but I'm totally fine with not having to be my problem.
Yes.
And so where I knew a lot of women at the time who were all about being independent, but they couldn't be because they were married and had kids. And so I just struggled with that, feeling like, well, it's just normal to get married and have a family. How come I'm not getting the normal thing? And so those two questions that my mom brought to my attention are two things I've held on to because they always just reset. They reset my thinking when I'm starting to have a pity party about the things that I don't have, or I'm looking especially hard when you're working with people who it seems they aren't grateful for what they do have. And it's something that's a close, like a desire in your heart.
Yes.
To like, I'd kill for that.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm not in their shoes. I don't know their situations fully.
True, but I do think you have a point. I do think, and that's one thing that I talk about a lot on this show, is I do feel that those of us, I have 8 children. I got married young, 20 years old. I'm married, and we had the first one 9 months later.
Wow.
Yes. I've had to be careful about this. You have to be very careful because sometimes someone's burden is someone else's biggest dream. And I know I live a very blessed life. And I know that there are women out there who maybe they haven't found a good man like I found. And, at 20 years old, you're taking kind of a lot of chances. We don't really know each other very well. I mean, I did get to know him for quite a while before. So I knew his character, I think, pretty well. But we're both so young at 20. We grew up together. And a lot of kids at 20, they do end up going down different paths. We didn't. We went down, the same path as parents and my parents taught us. But I do think that women tend to be very ungrateful and they tend to complain about things. I mean, life generally is just hard. Life is hard. And
exactly. And that's what my mom was saying.
Yes. And
like if you were married and had kids, you'd be complaining about something else.
Right. Life in general is hard. It's hard to be single. It's hard to be married with lots of kids. It's hard to pay your bills. It's hard, it's just, you have to, like you said, you have to choose contentment. Exactly. And you have to choose that. So, but yeah, sometimes our burdens are someone else's biggest dream. So, and, did you feel, so you kind of talked about, I told you
we're going all over the place, but that's okay.
Free talking. That's my favorite. It's my favorite when it's just free conversation. But do you feel like there was ever kind of a catalyst or a turning point for you? I know contentment is you always have to work on it. But in my life, I can look back and I could kind of see some defining moments where I had to make a choice in my life. I had to make a choice if I was going to become bitter over a situation and I was going to let it engulf me and turn me into this mean, nasty woman, or if I was going to overcome that and choose joy instead. Is there anything in your life, maybe the conversation with your mom, that you can kind of look back on and say, this is kind of where I made a choice?
I would say that conversation that I just shared with you was probably at that moment. And I would say, I think it was 27. And I just said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done feeling all tied up in knots over something I literally have no control over.
Right.
I think some of it too, and I don't know if there are other women out there that are like, or listening that are like this, but just the general makeup of who I am. I am not the pursuer in most relationships, romantically or otherwise.
Right.
And because of that, I always thought there was something wrong with me. And I struggled for years with that. And so, for instance, if I feel like the culture in today's church world is that the girls signal to the guys that they're interested. So then the guy will ask them out or do whatever, pursue a relationship with them. But it's literally no risk to them because they already know the girl's interested. And I don't know if it's old school. I honestly think it's just a personality thing for me. I am not even attracted to men if I have to make the first move.
Well, I think we're not supposed to be the pursuers, really.
Well, I feel like that's accurate, but it's not. It's not
right.
actually how it goes down normally. I mean, when I was in Bible college, it was the girls chasing the guys around.
Yeah. So. No, you are it's completely accurate. And yes, my son can attest to that.
I know, because my brothers, I've watched people become friends with me just to get close to my brothers.
Yes.
And I just never understood it. I would be so confused. I had hours and hours of discussions with my mom on that. And I was just like, what is wrong with me? Because I don't know how to flirt. I don't know how to do this. It's so awkward. And she told me, she said, Hope, you do know how to flirt. It's just different. I was like, what do you mean? And she said, if you are in a room working on a project and you really click with somebody, that's your way of, you have to be doing something. And that's really how I am, which means there's very few chances to actually flirt because how often are you working on the same project with somebody,
right.
Normally it's with people, so, and I just had to, that really bugged me. I remember having a discussion. One of my brothers said something to me, well, if you would just be a little bit more open. And I was like, you are not wrong. You are not wrong. Cause I mean, I can shut people down and I know it. I have this face that just says, don't approach me. I get that. And especially when it comes to men, I don't, and it's not because I've been hurt by them. That's just
right.
For me, I have to know that this is what they want in order for it to be okay for me. So anyways, that's just a little something that's a part of who I am that took me a while to understand. No, this is how God made you. It's not bad. Right. If I were better at flirting, would I maybe have had more dates? Yes. But to be completely honest, I don't think it would have ended in marriage.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I'm a very strong and independent woman and I need led. And I will only respect a man who can lead me. And if I start the relationship, you'll better be sure I'll probably be the one ending it. So
I'm with you. It's the firstborn thing. It's the firstborn thing. And we are the leaders from the time that we come out of the womb. We are the leaders of our
and the babysitters and the responsible parties. The guinea pig. I like that.
We are the guinea pig. We are everything. We are natural born leaders. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's God. It put that in us. It's our personality. And with me too, I have always been attracted to secure men that are secure in themselves and will lead. And I got that in my husband, who is also another firstborn. So
there you go.
A lot of times firstborns can clash, but we get each other. We understand each other. And yes, I have to fight back that independence sometimes, but at the end of the day,
I know, right?
Yes. I'm striving to be a godly, submissive wife, and I do follow his lead. And sometimes it takes all, but I do it. So, and he's a good leader. And I think you're right. He was the one to pursue me as well. And we were good friends for about 9 months to a year before he expressed interest.
That's neat.
So we got to know each other. We were both in the same youth group. And then we got.
And this isn't me dissing. I don't want to diss on people who are, maybe the woman made the first move. First move, that sounds bad, but they made it. they made it
it
clear they were
apparent.
interested. There's nothing wrong. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that.
That's just
It's
not your
just
personality.
not my personality.
Yeah.
And so, but for a long time, I thought that was why I was single. And I just had to let
No.
that go and
Mhm.
realize, no, that's just how God made me. And
Mhm.
it probably doesn't sit well with some people, but that's okay. It doesn't. I refuse to sit here and think that God withheld something because of my personality. Like,
No.
no, I want somebody to be okay with that. That I'm like
Mhm.
that. They need to be okay
Oh,
with that.
yes, they do. They do. I mean, yeah, it's kind of important.
Yeah.
Ashley said, what attracted me to my husband was that he pursued me. I was just like, you hope I didn't flirt or make it known who I was interested in. So, yep,
Awesome.
same personality there. So,
I
yeah,
think I went away from your original question, which was there a moment? And I think that moment
yeah,
was just that conversation with my mom, knowing that my dad was 110% rooting for me. If I went to him and told him this is what I want to do, he's like, all right, let's get this done. Let's do this. Um, and so I do have fantastic parents who are very active, have very active roles. And I refer to them a lot because they are my friends.
yeah.
I feel very blessed to have that. Uh, because when I was young, they were my parents and I didn't get to disrespect them, and I don't disrespect them now. But
Right.
now that I'm older, the relationship is just so sweet, and I appreciate it because I don't know that I could do the whole being single without them.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
so
No.
sometimes you just need that person you're going to call, talk to.
You have great parents, and I watch people who raise good godly kids, and I watch their methods, and I watch their relationship with their kids. And I have not ever been one of these parents that I'm going to get you to 18 alive, and then once you are 18, goodbye, you're out of my house, wash my hands of you, we're done. No. That's not how I parent. And I strive every day, even with my son who's at college. I text him, let him know I'm thinking about him, tell him I love him, tell him good night. Is he a mama's boy? Not really, but he knows his mom loves him. So,
Yeah.
and so I like how they have taken active roles even in your adult life, and I think that's very important. It's a good lesson for parents who are raising kids. That's a good lesson to just, be fully invested. Like, your kid never stops being your kid,
No.
no
No.
matter what age
And
they
I
are.
would like to, caution those who are single and, probably between the ages of 25 and 32, make it a point to keep your parents in the loop in your life too. Don't let them be the ones that are always calling and saying, "Hey, what's up with you?" Um, really reach out to them and draw them close. I think
Mhm,
even if you didn't grow up with a super close relationship with your parents, you can create that now.
mhm.
It requires you picking up the phone or you going to see them. So
I do have a question. I'm going to pick your brain
sure.
about this. This is not even on the outline. It just came to me because I do have a couple listeners. They're actually in the chat where they have not necessarily been raised IFB. They
Mhm.
don't really maybe have a dad that's Baptist or takes an active role in being their leader. What would be your advice for girls like that maybe have an unsaved parent?
Sure.
Or,
A couple of things. So, as I know a couple of gals myself, similar situations.
Mhm,
And one I would say, don't cut off your father that the Lord gave you,
mhm,
even if they're not. I mean, obviously, keeping your head that they're not the same, going down the same road that you are. But parents are parents, and they're given a special wisdom,
mhm,
um, life wisdom that they can give you. So if you have a parent at all, repair any as much as possible. You repair those bridges and you make it a way to have a relationship with them. And that would be my first thing. The second thing is if you're in a good church, I'm assuming that they are because they're moving forward. Um, garner to yourself wise friends, and they can be married
mhm.
friends. I always say the pastor's wife. My mom always says that she says, I'm not really the social person. Um, she always tells me, Hope, you're just so much better at that. um,
I think of her as social. I've never really
I think
thought
she's
she wasn't
great. I say the same
social.
thing all the time. But finding somebody who will take the time to have some maybe that you could learn to trust with the
Mhm.
questions and the problems you have. And that can be, I would say, a woman,
Mhm.
first of all. And then respect your pastor and his decisions and actively seek his counsel. He
Mhm.
can't be your father, so it's not like he can, give you a hug and wipe
Right.
away your tears or do the things that daddies do. He can't do that because he's your pastor. He's not your dad.
Right.
But he can give you counsel. And I would say you take your situation with your family into that office with your pastor. You schedule a meeting and you say, "This is my situation. What is your advice for building and moving forward?" Because without knowing each individual's life and what,
Right.
the active roles, I feel like it can only be, for the most part, general. But I think um, just making sure that the leadership that you're not necessarily garnering friends or peers or equals, that you're going to somebody who you respect as a leader for counsel,
Mhm.
obviously beside your pastor. But and that's why I usually recommend the pastor's wife. But I'm in a small church, so I feel like that's not hard. If you're in a larger church, just
It
look
is
at
a
the
little hard.
staff. Look at the staff and who is putting out there for the Lord, who is not has it all together,
Yeah.
but would give you the shirt off their back because they genuinely are concerned for your welfare and
Mhm.
for your spiritual welfare. So I guess that would be my advice.
Yes, I
The
definitely
Bible says, "In the multitude of counselors, there is safety." And I think that's what you have to rest in.
yes, I agree. And I can't stress the importance of finding a good church. Now, I know one of the girls, Kaylin, she is still a minor who lives at home. And
Mhm.
so she does watch all of our services online. She lives a few hours from us, so she's not local, but she has to kind of go where her parents go right now as
Absolutely.
far
Yeah.
as church and things. And so she's hoping to eventually, as she gets older, maybe get into a better church, find an
I would
IFB.
just say working daily on that relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
From a young age, for myself, yes, I grew up in an amazing home and
Mhm.
a good church home, but nobody can choose your relationship with the Lord but you.
Right.
Nobody can make you have that. You can
Mhm.
be led, you can be taught, but you choose it. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, giving your heart to the Lord and saying, whatever that is, if you desire to serve Him wholeheartedly, then you work hard to protect that.
Mhm.
My life verse is Proverbs, it's 4:23. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. You keep your heart tender towards the Lord and His calling, and you be obedient to your parents, and you obey them. You do everything that you can. If you can find a church that they'll let you go to, do that. But if not, you're live streaming, you're doing the best that you can. The Lord's going to honor that. Because when you
Mhm.
stand before, I tell teens this who are on our bus, who don't get choices to do all
Right.
the things they want to. I tell them all the time, when you stand before the Lord, your parents give an account for you while you were living in their house, while you were
Mhm.
a minor, while you are to be submissive to them.
Right.
But you give an account for your heart.
Yeah.
And so, really desiring to find a good church, whether that's you have a church in your back pocket, that you're
Mhm.
going to go to when you have the ability to do that. The other thing is building good relationship with your parents so that they will allow you to do those things. If you're not being a good, responsible um, contributor at home, then it's no wonder they're not going to let you do what you want to do.
Right. Good
So,
point.
and I tell my bus kids that all the time. If you wanted to be at church, you would be there, but
Mhm.
you have to want it and you have to want it bad enough to do your chores. That's how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
And so, for unsaved parents who just don't know,
Right.
um,
They'll keep that
you have
as
to
the
win them. I
punishment.
think it's
Yeah.
very much the same as the wife who wins their husband
Yeah.
by their conversation. Um, your behavior, what you say, how you treat people shows the sincerity of your heart.
Mhm.
So, just keep a strong relationship with the Lord. Um, I think what you said, about I don't know who it is, but is watching your live streams and the church services and stuff. I think that's great. She can't get to church. That's amazing. She's doing the best thing that she knows how to. But I
Yes.
would say as soon as it's your choice, you make that choice.
Yeah.
Don't just say my parents are holding me back, and then finally you get to make your own decisions, and then you get to see, was it really because my parents were holding me back? So just be very conscious. That
Yeah.
sounds harsh, but be very conscious that you are, keeping your heart tender towards the Lord.
Yeah, we can use a lot of things for excuses, but I tend to see, especially when you get to an age where, you do have that choice, we do what we want to do. We go
Mhm.
to church because we want to go to church. We don't go to church because we don't want to go to church.
Exactly.
We choose what we want to do in life.
And a lot of times we don't have a problem throwing our parents under the bus if it's
Yes.
something we should do,
Their
but we
fault.
don't want to do.
Right. Yeah. And that could carry over to once you get married. It's my husband's fault.
Yes.
Throw
Or
him
it's my
under the
kid's
bus.
fault.
It's my kid's fault. Yeah, exactly. Instead of just taking responsibility.
Yeah.
So for sure. But how do you think discontentment in life, this can be anyone's life. It doesn't even have to be someone that's single. It's anyone's life can affect you as a Christian.
Um, so the Apostle Paul said that he, in whatsoever state,
There with I am. Yes.
whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content.
Yes.
He, and I think that is probably the biggest thing. It doesn't matter if you're single, married, kids, no kids, own a house, don't own a house, live with your parents, don't live with your parents, go to school, don't go to school. I see so many people on Twitter who absolutely look back at the choices that they made while they were in Bible college, and they hate it. They hate it so much that they're like, tear down all the investment that was placed into them because they said this is what they wanted. When in reality, through all of those decisions, they weren't content, and they weren't taking responsibility for them. And so I would just say contentment is something you actively have to work on. And if you aren't content, discontentment leads to bitterness, and the root of bitterness can kill you spiritually. It makes you a victim, it makes you constantly say this isn't fair. And living in that victim mentality says to everybody around you that somebody owes you something.
Yeah.
That your parents owed you more, your pastor owed you more, the situations in life, you never got a fair shake. And the reality is that's just not true. And at some point you have to take responsibility.
Right.
And the only way to find true contentment is to take responsibility and say, if you love the Lord and you want to please him, then you're going to want his will for your life, even if it doesn't fit in the box that you built and the fantasy in your head. I tell girls who are starting to date or are considering, dating, I tell them all the time, just remember, they're not the man that you painted in your head.
Yeah.
They're not that fantasy. They're real. Okay. That means they have real flaws. And you've got to learn when you're dating and when you're getting into relationships or even friendships, if you want to make somebody a close friend, can I deal with all the little idiosyncrasies of this person? Because that's who they are. And they're not going to be perfect. And so I think just really focusing on having a relationship with the Lord and being content with the things in life that he's given you. One of the ways when I was 27 and I decided I was just over it, one of the things mom always had us do when we were younger and we would fight with each other, at least she did it to me. I don't know if the other kids did it, but she'd have me sit down and she said I had to write out things about the other person that I loved when I was mad at them. I hated it so hard. So when I was 27, I sat down after that conversation with mom. I sat down and I just made a list of the things I loved about my life, things that I was just so blessed to have. And I just became so grateful for those things that when I looked at the things I didn't have that I thought I deserved, I just felt so bad.
Yeah.
I felt so bad that I was taking all these good things for granted. And then I just sat down and decided if there are things that I want that I can make happen, then I'm going to work for it. Nobody's going to give this to me. I think Disney paints this whole someday your prince will come and they'll carry you away and they'll pay all your bills. they'll give you everything that you wanted. And it's just not true. Even if you do meet that man, it's just not
It's
true.
not.
It's this whole fantasy world that we live in. And so I think it's the same all the way across the board. Just be willing to work. Be willing to work hard. If you don't like something about where you're at in life and you can change it, then get off the couch, stop whining about it, and go change it. Go get some work done. You don't like the way your living room looks, then rearrange it. That's like our whole thing as women, right?
Yes,
At least that's what I'm told.
It is.
You know? So I just think that discontentment it can destroy your life because it's going to lead straight to bitterness. And nobody likes being around somebody who's bitter.
No.
Nobody likes the Karens of the world.
No, absolutely not. And I think this could apply the whole Disney fairy tale land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't what I had built up in my head. Like, you tell the ones going into relationships. I have found that is true with every area of life.
Mm-hmm.
You become a mom. And I think it's done a disservice. This is why I try to be real on my show when it comes to motherhood and just the struggles of motherhood and just how it's, it's hard. It's hard. But I always say all good things in life are hard. But when you become a mom, I think in your head, you have this fantasy even when it comes to that. And no one tells you about just how rough pregnancy is and how rough childbirth is and how you feel like your body's gone through a meat shredder, and how just no one prepares you for that until you go through it. And then just the sleepless nights and the temper tantrums and how even after they are adults, the worrying never stops,
Mm-hmm.
The caring never stops. The concern never stops and nothing prepares you for it, but going through it. And I feel like can be that way with every area of life, marriage, having children, dating someone, just anything really. So I do think that's where we have to make up our mind that whatsoever state I am in, I am going to be content, and it is a mindset thing.
Yeah,
I believe
for sure.
when it comes to that. But what are some signs that you watch out for now? Maybe some things that pop up that you're like, oh, this is kind of, I need to do a heart check,
Okay. So for me, it's real easy. I'm a crier. So if I'm happy, I cry. And I cry. So I would say emotions are very strong with me. So I have learned to I place myself in timeout.
Okay.
So if something for instance, if I hear a mother complaining about their children, and it's not every time a mom, like I get normal complaints, but it's just like these kids are just like they almost wish they could get rid of them.
Yes.
That's probably one thing that it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because I'm now at 32. My struggles are not the 25, 26, 27. Oh, I might never get married struggles. Now at 32, my clock is ticking.
Right.
If I'm ever going to have a baby,
Right.
It's like you feel like this pressure. And so I've found one of the recent triggers that I have triggers. It's such a
it's fine.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Is when I hear somebody complaining about their kids or complaining about excessively complaining about being pregnant or something like that,
Right.
Again, within reason, it doesn't bug me, but we're talking excessive. It just bothers me. It bothers me so bad, and I'll get so angry, and sometimes I sit in the car and go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you give them kids? Why would you give them all this stuff? I would never complain about it. I just have learned I have to put myself in a timeout and say, whoa.
Yeah.
That's actually not true. I probably would complain because I'm human.
Yeah.
And then I go back to what I was taught and I look at that person and I try to think of 2 or 3 things about that person that I think are fantastic. And that's really hard. It's a big exercise. But it makes me then be grateful for the place that I'm at and where God has me. So I would just say you have to learn you, and you have to learn the things that make you tick, and
Right.
realize that it'll probably change. It'll be that one day. Like it might be seeing your family members getting married, your cousins getting married, your brothers and sisters. That might be hard. I know when David got married, I actually thought I would be totally fine. And for the most part, I was. I just had like a little moment after it was all done and they were married and they were gone. And I was just like, I can't believe my baby brother just got married before me. You
Yeah.
gotta be kidding me.
Aw.
But it was a moment. It was just a
Mhm.
second. And I was like, no, we're not going there.
Mhm.
We're not going there because we know where there goes.
Yes.
And I think that was when, so we were traveling home and I went to my sister and I was like, hey, does Ariana want to ride in the car with me? And she's like, yeah. And it was just, you find something to just distract yourself. You find something that you have joy in. I love my nieces.
Mhm.
I'm so excited. Jewel has a baby boy on the way. So I have a nephew, my first nephew on the way.
Yeah.
And so you make decisions, and that's what you have to do. You have to consciously make decisions. You don't let your emotions control you. You control them. And
Right.
so I had her in the car for maybe an hour and then she got car sick. So anyways, but
Well, then that sure distracted you.
it did. I mean, she didn't throw up in the car, but she
Okay.
did end up going back in with her parents. But that's all I
Oh.
needed. That's all I needed was like,
Mhm.
I only needed 20 minutes of her talking to me and
Right.
sharing all these stories and, her little 4-year-old mind, which I mean, it's 5 now, but she was 4 then. And,
Mhm.
just, it brings me such joy to be a part of her life. And so that's what I did. And I think that's the one thing I'm actively working on. And if you want to be content, something you have to actively work on. And that is when you get to that point where you're just frustrated or you're sad, you have to change the narrative. Nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody's going to realize, oh, the single sister of 32 years is really struggling. And nor should they. It's not their problem. It's mine.
Mhm.
And so then you just learn to manage it. But you have to be actively managing it.
But I like how you said too, it made me think of the verse that talks about taking every thought captive. You said, I'm not going to go there. And I think that's true for any situation in our life, right? Like if we're going through a hard time in life or, whether that is. And then too, another point I really liked, I'm going to take a couple of these thoughts that you did too, is how when someone upsets you or triggers you, whatever, and if you're in a church for any amount of time, someone's going to upset you. It's all these personalities. We're supposed to dwell together in unity.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do instead of going off on them? Do you know how that comes across to me? I would love to have your kids, instead of doing that, you go in your car and you think of 2 or 3 things that you like about them. That is a great idea. I really like that. And I might steal that with my kids who are fighting. I might steal your idea.
I hated it and your kids will hate it, but I am so grateful as an adult for it because it's something that I make myself do on a regular basis.
It's a good idea. And it's, people, we're going to have our annoyances. I know I annoy people sometimes, but you know what? They annoy me sometimes. So it goes both ways. It's not just my problem. We all have problems. And I like the idea of focusing on the good. Everyone has something good in there. Well, most people that come to a church have good things going for them. So, focusing on that. I like that. And then, and you have found a way to flourish even though your life looks different, than you thought it would. You thought it would look like you. I love the fact that you are a huge blessing to your parents. I know you are. You're a huge blessing to your family. And, as hard as it is to accept, I think you being single, you do provide a lot of support that maybe someone with kids couldn't at this point.
I am the best fun aunt there is. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Girls' night at Auntie Hope's house.
Exactly. You are. You're the fun aunt. You're the favorite aunt, right? So, but no, you do. And, there is a lot of capacity, even if you are a woman, And every situation, I want to put that disclaimer out there too. Every situation is going to be different. Maybe you have a dad, maybe you're a single, you're 27 and your dad wants you to live at home. You know, he feels like he can watch over you or be your protector more. You know, every situation is different. That's not what it was in Hope's situation. So if there's no,
and I didn't get my own place till I was 30. So
right. So you still were living at home at 27, but there is no cut and dried approach to this. It's not like a list. You need to do this, this, this. You know, every situation is different. I think the most important thing is being in submission to your dad while he is your protector. And, you know, like you said, keeping a good relationship with him and going to him for godly counsel.
Oh, yes.
Following his lead.
He went with me and visited the houses. I mean, I did a few on my own because I could pretty much walk in and decide, nope, this is not it. This is not it. I only needed him there for the ones that I was like, maybe. But it's so funny because yes, any big decisions, I go to him. I told him I had to trade in my car, and it's not that I'm not capable. I am so capable. But I went to him and I was like, then I think I need to trade in your car. He's like, yeah, it's about time. Let's go. I was like, now? He's like, yeah, let's go now. I was like, just love it. I love it. Yeah. That's probably something I would definitely leave to the man to do. Just let me know when you get a new one.
Yes. And I love that you said too, it's not that you're not capable, because honestly, I've got the personality. I'm capable to pretty much do everything that I need to or want to, but do I? No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
right?
I leave it up to him. I just told him today, I said, there's a lot of things I can do around the house, but there's some things I really can't, like, because my dishwasher's broken right now. I'm like, I can't, I'm sorry. I watched a couple YouTube videos, but I've tried fixing my washer. I've tried fixing a lot of stuff, but that's not happening.
Yes. Now that I have a house, it's one of the biggest things that I told him before I bought a house was, oh, having you over my house all the time, fixing this stuff, and you have your own house and your own wife. You don't need a second family to have to take care of. He was just looking at me, he's like, why do you say stuff like that? He's like, I would love to come help you at your house.
Yeah.
And so I've just learned, there are things. Okay. I redid my space myself. I put in my own closet. I did the wallpaper. I did this, but when I came home one day to a burst pipe or water spraying out of my water heater, I was like, 911 calling dad.
Yes.
I don't know what to do. And he's like, turn the water off. I was like, I tried. Where is it? It was exactly where I knew, like where I should have known it was. I mean, I knew where it was, but I, for whatever reason, had forgotten. But yeah, and he was over there, 5 minutes, help him at least get the water turned off.
Yes.
So my basement wasn't flooding.
Right.
So I'm really blessed to have that for sure. But I do try to do as much as I can on my own. The first year was in the house. This is just a funny story, and I can stop anytime. First year was in my house, the shingles, there was a really bad windstorm and blew off some shingles off my house. And I was just so annoyed because I was like, when you buy a house, you have somebody go in and look and make sure.
Right.
They said the roof was great.
Yeah.
I'm in the house, I think 6 months, right? Maybe not even. And there's shingles falling off my roof. So
yep. Life of a homeowner.
We were really busy. I don't know if we were in the middle of vacation Bible camp or something. I wasn't going to call dad. It wasn't like it was the end of the world. So I climbed up on the roof, which it's really easy access. So it's not that scary. Climbed up on the roof and I just tacked him down. And then I called a roofing company. And I did a dumb thing. I didn't have them tell me how much they thought it would be. I just had them come out and fix it. It was like 2 shingles. How much could it be? Like $100? No, it was like $500.
Oh my goodness.
And so I paid it. Thankfully, that's what savings is for.
Right.
And less than a month later, 2 more shingles fell off. And I was like, I ain't got time for this.
No.
Not that I didn't have time. Like I don't have the money to keep paying a guy to come out. And again, we were busy and I didn't feel like it wasn't like an emergency. And later dad's like, you should have just called me. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I probably should have just called you. But I got on YouTube and I watched YouTube videos. And I was like, bro, shingles are not that hard. It's not that complicated. I went to Menards. I took a shingle. I went to Menards and one of the deacons at a church works at Menards. And I was like, hey, brother Chet, I said, come help me. And he helped me match the shingles. He got me the caulking I needed. And in that one afternoon, I got up on the roof, fixed the shingles. And it's so funny because I just had that roof guy, because I did call them later because I was like, I thought you said that you checked to make sure they were secure. They never called me back.
Right.
So he just texted me today and was like, I just realized I never answered you and I feel so bad. Is your roof still on? And I was like, yes, I figured it out. I just went and got the shingles and put them on myself. He's like, I am so sorry. I was like, it's fine. But that's just part of being single that I think you don't have to crawl on your roof and take care of it. You can pay the money or you can call your dad to have it. That's totally fine. No judgment. Yeah. But the thing I've learned is I am more capable than I thought. I mean, I worked in construction on so many things with my dad. I really am not dumb. I know how to do it. It's just the intimidation of going, you're so used to when you're in your parents' house, something goes wrong, you call them. It's their problem, not yours.
Right. Exactly.
That's how you feel. And so it's just that learning curve.
Yeah.
But it's just something like as you get older and you make these decisions, yes, there's going to be some things, there's always going to be something that's inconvenient about it. It'd be way more convenient to live at home as far as like money wise. Yeah. But at the same time, the way I'm doing it has its benefits as well. And it has its responsibilities. And so I don't think there's necessarily any right or wrong way.
No, there's not.
Except to be continually living in this fantasy of what you think it's supposed to be. That's the wrong way to do it.
Exactly. It was so funny. I shared a story on my Instagram today. It was this woman like taking apart the back of like a hot water heater or something. And it said homeowners are like, I just watched a YouTube video. It's like,
That's
there's a
true.
YouTube video.
I saw that.
Yes.
Yes. I need to go repost that to my story.
Yes. It's so true.
So accurate.
Yeah. But what would be your advice? We're going to kind of wrap it up with this. Sure. You've done a great job, by the way. Thank you for all your words of wisdom. And I think it will be a help to a lot of single ladies that watch this. So just accepting their reality, accepting and flourishing in your reality. What would be your final advice to those who maybe are struggling? They struggle, like you said, with seeing those, being happy for those close to them, who this is happening to. Their every dream is happening to this person or this sister or this.
Who doesn't deserve it.
Right. Yeah.
That's how you feel sometimes.
In our flesh, we might think that.
Yes. So, that's the reality. Sometimes that's how you think.
Yes. And I wanted to say too. No. Yes. I wanted to say too, what you were talking about, earlier, I meant to touch on this. You said, these are the thoughts that went through my head when my dad died when I was 17. You said, why is that person being blessed when they're not even grateful for their kids? Or, why are these like single unwed mothers who have like 5 kids? How can they find a guy? But, here I am. I've lived my life in purity and waiting on God to send me this man. And I can't even find one. What's going on with me? I had the same thoughts when my dad died. I was thinking, why are all these deadbeat dads in prison? Totally healthy.
My dad had to die.
Yes. And my dad, who is active in church, loves the Lord, has 5 kids. He's a soul winner. He's sold out for the Lord. He gets ALS and dies. Why? Why would the Lord? And that's where I kind of had to make a choice. I could get bitter and spend the rest of my life just questioning, why did God do this? Why did God allow this to happen? Or I could accept the fact that the rain falls on the just and the unjust.
Exactly. It's my mom's favorite verse to quote.
Yes. The rain falls on the unjust and the just. There's people everywhere that have been through this. I'm not in a bubble. I'm not in an island. This happens all the time. And I could either, just depend on the Lord during the hard time, or I could blame the Lord for the hard time, so
I think the, obviously that verse, the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike, is a big part of it. But I also think understanding that we live in a sinful world. Yes. Yeah. And the sin in our world has an effect on every aspect of our lives. There's a breakdown all across the board, and that includes our health, that includes everything. And
Mhm.
so to constantly be frustrated about something, there is no answer. There is no, like, somebody asked me that. I could
Mhm.
not say, oh, this is the reason why your dad,
Right.
like, this isn't a Job moment. Okay.
Right.
Job's friends are like, you must be sinning. You must
Right.
be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
No, there's not. Sometimes there is no answer other than to say that's how the world works right now.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not the perfect world that God intended or created. This is the
Right.
world we chose.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, Adam and Eve chose. And trust me,
Mhm.
we will have words.
Yes.
We'll have words
Yeah.
in heaven with that woman. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, we will.
Um, but at the same time, I think just being able to understand that things are going to happen to you, to people that you love, that you cannot control, and know the difference between things that you're responsible for and the things you can't control. And
Mhm.
you have to trust the Lord. You have to trust
Mhm.
the Lord that He wants the best for you. So,
Yes.
I forgot your original question.
Just words of advice for those that are struggling with accepting the reality. What is
Yeah.
some of the
Okay.
best things that they can do to kind of get to that place where they've accepted that
Right.
it's different than what they built up in
Okay.
their
So
head or
I
whatever?
did write down a few things,
Hmm.
kind of under that.
Hmm.
I think I put them under steps to finding contentment, but they go hand in hand with this.
Right.
I think the first step to finding contentment is letting go of the plans you made, the visions of the life you think you most wanted, and going to the Lord and humbly thanking Him for the amazing things He's given you. Ask Him to lead and guide you as you move forward in these new uncharted waters. Submit everything to Him, for His use. Trust that He loves you more than you love you. Let go of your iron grasp on your life and be willing to wait on Him. Psalm 62:5 says, my soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is
Hmm.
from Him.
Yeah.
Work on your relationship with the Lord first.
Yeah.
Um, and until you can understand that God's plan is better than your plan,
Hmm.
will be miserable.
Yeah.
So the first step in finding contentment is just let go of all these plans that you made.
Hmm.
Step 2, others. Others,
Hmm.
Lord, let this my motto be. Don't remember where I heard that from. Um, but it's a famous quote from someone. I'm not even sure who. But look at your life and what you're currently doing and ask yourself what you are doing specifically for the Lord. Go to your pastor and leadership in the church and be available for services, as many ministries as you can. 9 times out of 10, the reason you feel so discontented is because you're not busy enough.
Hmm.
Your life feels empty because it is entirely lived for yourself. Step outside of your life for a moment and ask yourself who you are influencing to do right. Who are you encouraging in the Lord? The Apostle Paul spoke about giving care for the things of the Lord first in 1 Corinthians 7, verses 32 through 33. But I would have you without carefulness. He that is unmarried careth for the things that belong to the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he that is married careth for the things that are of the world, how he may please his wife.
Hmm.
You're not going to be happy if you're trying to please yourself.
Yeah.
If you're trying to make yourself happy and fulfilled and content until you get your eyes off yourself and you start looking at the millions of people out there who are hurting. And when I was working in the work world, I just saw it every single day.
Hmm.
These people coming in with so much baggage, um, and who they were was a culmination of the things that had either happened to them or they allowed and the choices that they made. And we live in such a mentality of victims.
Yes.
And that the only way to conquer that is to stop looking at yourself.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be fair. No, you're not going to get everything that you think you deserve or think that you want,
Right.
married, single, or otherwise. But you have such a special opportunity if you're single
Mhm.
to dedicate time specifically for the Lord. You don't have kids.
Right.
You don't have a husband. You don't even have to cook dinner every night if you don't want to.
Right.
You have the ability and it's and a responsibility to invest in somebody else. Um, I have some gals who live in the house with me who rent from me.
Mhm.
And it's not because I necessarily need their help for paying rent, or not, I don't have rent, but my mortgage for my
Right.
mortgage. Um, although that's a blessing and it's fantastic and it helps. But it's also because they jokingly call it the halfway house. So they graduate from college and they weren't married or getting, dating, and they didn't have necessarily, didn't want to go back home, and they love their
Right.
ministries and they wanted to stay here. And I was like, well, hey, move on in.
Aw.
Because to me, that is my ministry. It is to look at the people around me and say, I have so much to share. I
Mhm.
have so much to give. And I'm not saying go open your house and let people live with you. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying look around and see who might have it a step or two worse, and go see how you can help them have a better life. And
Mhm.
there, at the end of the day, you just have so much fulfillment, and that fulfillment is in Christ. If you go to a church and you do not participate in any what I would call extracurricular activities, any ministries that they have, if they have a choir, sing in the choir.
Right.
Don't have to have the most perfect voice to sing in a choir,
No.
especially in small churches. Just go do it.
Just do it.
Um, if there are requirements in order to sing that choir, you submit to those and you do it happily, because I am telling you what, you will be so much happier if you are a part of the church family. And the only
Yeah.
way to really feel that is to be a part of it.
Right.
So whatever the ministry is, if your church has a bus ministry, the 110% get involved in that bus ministry. Um, go to your leadership, find out what are things that you can do. Can you work in the nursery? Can you, now nursery isn't my favorite place to put people who don't want to, who are trying to hide from preaching, but if you're 100%, like, I love the Lord and I just want to help, be a blessing so that your pastor's wife isn't stuck in the nursery all the time. Be flexible, be the person that your leadership can come to and last minute say, can you do this? And why can't you? You're not married, you don't have kids, and that's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's not a bad stigma, and you shouldn't feel offended that you would be their first choice. It's like a badge of honor, because the minute the ring goes on the finger, sweetheart, that's not that you're never involved in ministry, but it's a lot more difficult. I watched my sister with her two kids, a third on the way, and she, make sure she's on that bus route as often as she possibly can. And she teaches school and she's fantastic. She's involved in everything. But there are times when she's just like, I just wish I could do more. And I'm like,
Mm.
crazy, you're doing an amazing amount. But
Yeah.
the truth is she can't do as much or be as flexible as much as I can, because she has kids.
Yeah.
She has a husband. She has a
Mhm.
family.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. And it's such a special gift that God's given us. And if you just sit back and you're not using any time for the Lord, not for the church, for the Lord,
Mhm.
then it's no wonder you're not content.
Right.
And so go out there, go find something to do, go find somebody to minister to, and be an encouragement to your pastor's wife, to your pastor. However that looks, in every church is different as to how that would work and how that looks. But if I just recently talked to a gal, and she's just 100% lonely. We're about the same age. She's not
Mhm.
married either. And she's just so lonely.
Mm.
And I mean, since the time that I actually met her, almost every day she's texted me.
Mm.
And I keep telling her she's come to my church. She goes to a church, but it's a small church that she's not they're not necessarily doing a whole lot right now.
Mhm.
Once COVID hit, kind of wiped out all the
Yeah.
things that they were doing, which she was involved in, but just the spirit, she's so sweet, she's so kind. And I can get the sense that she really loves the Lord, but she's so lost and
Mhm.
she's lonely.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I say, why? Because you have all these amazing talents, all these amazing abilities to help others move forward in their Christian life. I would say the only thing in her case is I think she needs to come to my church, and I always tell her that. I think go over to my church, and it's the ministries. It's not when you have no guide in how to reach into other people's lives. I stress the bus ministry. Obviously, that's something that we're big on, but it just opens up the door for these teens and young people and the singles especially to invest in other people.
Yeah.
You get to see those homes and you see everything. You see the drugs. We dropped off a kid when she was 4, and I had to take her up to the house, and both her parents were high. I don't know what.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision. Do you leave the kid? What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? And thankfully, a friend of theirs had come who was fine, wasn't on anything, and had taken responsibility for her. So we didn't do anything.
Right.
I got on that bus, broke her.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see that,
Mm-hmm.
you have nothing to complain about.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're an adult and your dad isn't active in your life.
Mm-hmm.
To watch a child who has no control be in that situation, that's your ministry.
Yeah.
Your ministry is to hug those babies when they get on the bus and tell them they can be something, that they don't have to live a life like this, that they don't have to choose that there are other options and there are people who love them, and there's a savior who died for them and wants more for them. So I'm really big on the bus ministry because it's touched my heart personally.
Right.
And you have no idea the lives that you can touch when you get out of your own head. And you stop looking at all those things that you wish you had or you think you should deserve or whatever it is. Or the normal. It's just normal, the normal things. And you look at those people who have it worse, those children who have it worse.
Yeah.
And those adults who have it worse. And you grab their hand and you hold on for dear life because it's going to be a ride.
Yeah.
It's going to be a crazy ride. But they need you.
They
need you.
And I've seen that. I mean, when I was there for the bus ministry, I saw just the love. I mean, your dad, he gets a lot of hate online, which is kind of like my husband, which is why I think they click so well.
Probably.
And they're both independent. They're both really, truly independent fundamental Baptist preachers. And, but when you go to that bus conference and you see your entire family and the way that you love on those kids and you see the heart that you have for those kids. And I look into Nevaeh's beautiful blue eyes. And the first night she was very shy with me and she was but I kept like trying to engage because she just stole my heart from the first time she sat by me. I saw her coming down from the singing and I was thinking, please sit by me, please sit by me, please sit by me. And I think you kind of motioned her to kind of sit by me. And I was like, yes. So then I was kind of
not gonna lie, I saw that.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
oh, please sit by me.
The man needs to go sit by her.
So she just stole my heart from the first time I saw her. And the second night she came out, because I just paid a little bit of attention to her that first night. And I was talking with her and asking her name and how old she was. The second night, and I took a picture of it, she came out to sing and she just zeroed in on me and she was watching me. And as soon as they were done singing, she was like trampling all the kids to get to me. She was like, I gotta get over there, she's like,
nobody takes my seat.
Yes. And she had to get into that seat. And yes, when you look at those kids up there singing their hearts out for the Lord, like screaming at the top of their lungs because they're just so happy and just they love the Lord, and you see all the heart and soul that goes into that ministry. You're right. I mean, it makes any problem that you have just fade, into oblivion when you do. And I think that's part of just looking outwardly. We are such a victim. We have such a victim mentality. We've been trained that way in society. And as Christians, we should do better. We shouldn't have that mentality. We should be always looking outwardly and, what life can we touch, And I mean, I don't even really so much like the saying, someone somewhere has it worse, because we all have problems,
Yeah,
I don't like to minimize other people's problems. But I do think that when you decide that I am going to devote my life to helping others instead of just focusing on my problems, that really just readjust your mindset a ton. So
I don't know if it ever works to tell somebody else their problem isn't that big.
no,
You have to tell
No.
yourself that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's not good to tell someone, someone else has it worse than you.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing to say. But for yourself, you can give yourself a little stern talking too
Absolutely.
sometimes if you need that. So we are hoping to along the lines of finding a ministry. And really, I feel my husband and I have noticed on all our 22 years of being in the ministry, those who are invested and have their ministry within the church are those who stick around. When people don't, when they come, just give me, what can you give me? Feed me. I want the preaching. I want the special music. I want to hear it all. I want to be entertained. They tend to be the ones who find problems with everyone. They tend to be the ones who cause problems. They tend to be the ones who leave. So I know it's our church's desire to start up a van route this summer, hopefully.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, we do have a van. We don't have a bus, but we do have a van. And
that's how we started.
Yeah. And I know it might grow, eventually, but we do have a couple that they've expressed interest in heading that up. So we're trying to find a way to make that happen. But I want our church to be a place that invests in other lives. We look outwardly, and of course we do soul winning every week, and we do that, but we don't necessarily have a means of bringing discipling, and I feel like that's our next step, is just discipling the converts that we've gotten out there and bringing the little kids in that have a horrible.
My dad says all the time, discipling is coming to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and getting involved in the ministries.
Yes, it is.
Discipling, because that's how you learn. That's how you grow.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. But I want to get some of these. We have kids all around us, so I want to get them, and that's the next step. But I love your heart, and I love your family's heart for the Lord and for serving Him. And I love that you shared your heart with us. And I think it's going to help a lot of people. I think I
told you I'm a crier.
No, you're great. I love it. You showed us your heart. That's where your heart is. So that's okay. It's definitely okay. But thank you very much for being on. I think we're going to wrap it up now. We had a lot of people watching the whole time. So I'm glad.
I didn't have a chance to read any of the comments, so I hope they're on for a little bit.
Yes, the live chat will stay up.
Okay.
So you can go back and the live chat will come up after you. You had Kaylin was on there. Kaylin, that's the one I was talking about. Your sister, both sister-in-laws popped. Your sister and sister-in-law popped on. Kaylee. That's who I saw. I saw Kaylee Reeves left a comment. Your mom said she's super proud of you. Earlier in the show, and Jewel said she was on watching to support her sister.
Aw.
And Courtney showed up too. Hi, Courtney. I missed your comment. So she was on there as well. So thank you very much. Hang on. And I'm going to end it here. But then just hang on. I'll talk to you for a second. So ladies, thank you for joining. If you have any questions or comments, or you just want to be encouraging, go ahead and leave down in the comments below. And I enjoyed this very much. So we will see you all next week. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm actually going to try to reach out to Mariah from your church too. I want to have her on. I want to have your mom on again. For my older listeners that are grandmas, talking about being a grandma and how we can, impart, even she's raised good kids, but how do you impart wisdom?
What's the next step?
Yes. Yep. So that's going to be
a great grandma.
Yes, I'm sure she is. So yep, that's coming up here eventually, but I've just had a lot of guests on lately, which is good. So, all right, ladies.